It's summer. Time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and great food. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So, when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite grocery items delivered straight to you. Get ice cream, soda, and snacks from your favorite stores like Wegmans and CVS and make the most of every moment. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
The rural way of life is about making everyone feel at home. Tractor Supply chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform intelligent customer service. Together, we put the power of AI to work across 2,200 stores, keeping things running seamlessly inside, curbside, and countryside. This is elevated customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
What's worse than an ad interrupting your favorite music or podcast? That uninspired coffee you've been drinking while working, which is why Flavia is elevating your everyday coffee experience. Now you can enjoy cafe-quality beverages like coffee, tea, frothy lattes, and creamy hot chocolate made right in your home office, actual office, or wherever you want to upgrade your mug with bold, delicious flavors. Visit Flavia.com to shop the collection of machines and beverages now.
America's beverage companies are investing in America. We're American companies, making American products with American workers in America's hometowns. We're local bottlers and manufacturers, operating in all 50 states, employing more than 275,000 Americans in good-paying jobs, delivering for the nation, because we believe in the promise of America and the people who make it great. Learn more at WeDeliverForAmerica.org. Paid for by the American Beverage Association.
Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network, and you can follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/@RamsUpPodcast. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined often by my football guru, Ian, along with a bunch of other friends of the show on occasion. Let's get to it. Hey, what's going on, Ram fans? Another episode of Rams Up here. And the other day I was talking about this triplet assessment that someone did on the internet. And what they did was they assessed defenses by this measure. They considered who the best pass rusher was on a team, who the best inside linebacker was, and who the best safety was. And using that approach, determined which teams had the best defense, I guess is what they're getting at. And from that viewpoint, the Rams came in 23rd in the league and last in the NFC West. And as I stated the other day, I don't think it's a very efficient or accurate way of any kind of assessment, really. It's going to tell you who's got the best pass rusher, linebacker, safety combination, I guess, but how much does that really tell you, especially a team like the Rams that undervalues two of those three positions? So I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm going to do my own approach and not just defense, an entire team from top to bottom, and focusing on identified 7 things. So I'm calling it my septet analysis. I made up the term, bear with me, this is just for fun, it's not entirely scientific, but I think it's better than a triplet assessment. Before we get started, it is episode 757 on the podcast, so I'm going to talk about a player who wore number 57. Talked about a couple of guys already, I think Chris Chamberlain was one of them. And I don't always talk about these, star players or guys that made a big impact. Sometimes I talk about guys that were just a blip on the radar, but they were a Ram and worth mentioning at least once, and that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to talk about a number 57, Natrez Patrick, undrafted out of Georgia, 6'3", 242 pounds. So he was an old school run-stopping linebacker, 4-year starter for the Bulldogs. And he looked really good in the preseason at times. I remember some of us were really excited about the prospects of him being potentially the next great undrafted Rams linebacker. But he bounced back and forth between the practice squad and the active roster, mostly on the practice squad. Spent the 2 years with the Rams, and then before that Super Bowl, the Broncos put in a claim for him. After the Super Bowl, he moved over to the Broncos, tried to catch on with a couple of teams, and it never really worked out. So Natrez Patrick had high hopes for him that one preseason. Didn't ever really work out for him, but hey, he's my number 57. We like to talk about all these guys, the Hall of Famers and the guys that were with us for a very short period. And today it's number 57, linebacker Natrez Patrick. Now, let's get on to this analysis I did, and I identified 7 components of a successful team, my septet score, as I'm calling it. Getting as nerdy as I'm willing to do on a football podcast. And the 7 components are head coach, quarterback, left tackle, and wide receiver 1, as well as on the defensive side, run stopper, pass rusher, and CB1, cornerback 1. So I have 3 on offense, 3 on defense, and 1 head coach. Now, a lot of people will tell you, the 3 components to get to a Super Bowl are head coach, quarterback, and a healthy squad. And I built off of that. These are my 7 components to be a successful franchise. You can get by maybe with not checking all of these boxes, but the more you can check, the better. And as I'll get to at the end here, sometimes just having a well-rounded roster and some depth is certainly extremely valuable, of course. So let's take this. We're just going to look at the NFC West, by the way. I'm not going to spend, I don't have the resources or the time to go through 32 teams. I considered maybe looking at the major contenders in the NFC, the Eagles, Packers, Lions. But for today, we'll just look at the NFC West, because that's what we need to do, is win the NFC West. If we can do that, we'll be looking pretty. So the first team we'll look at is the Cardinals. And I gave their coach, Jonathan Gannon, 2 out of 5 points, 2.5 out of 5 points. The max you can get is 5. I gave him 2.5. Kind of a fair to middling coach at this point. I think he's got this franchise pointed in the right direction, but it's been more of the same, really. But you get, as far as the Cardinals go, they always seem to, look like a scary team for a little bit and then just collapse. But you got to cut him some slack. He is still building that team in his image, so he's just not quite there. Kyler Murray, I gave him just 3 out of 5, and the potential is there. And kind of like the Cardinal franchise, at his best, he's probably a 5, but we just don't see it consistently enough. Left tackle Paris Johnson, I gave him 3 out of 5. I think he's a fair to middling left tackle. I think you'd all agree on that, hopefully. And then Marvin Harrison, I had as our wide receiver 1, gave him 3.5. And again, potential is there to be a 4, 4.5, or a 5. But we saw a little bit last year, somewhat disappointing considering where he was drafted. Maybe we'll elevate that to a 4.5 by the end of this season. Hopefully not, but it's very possible. And I was looking at their run-stopping ability and who is the main guy there. They got a couple of linebackers, and then they got this draft pick, Walter Nolan, who I really like. And I gave the run-stopping grade to Walter Nolan, but I only gave him 2.5 points. And if I went with one of the linebackers, 2.5, maybe 3. Hey, maybe someone that knows this Cardinal franchise better than me can jump in and tell me where I'm getting that wrong. And then they had the edge rusher Sweat, a new addition to this team, and I gave him 4 out of 5. He's been around a little bit, very productive. That may be a little generous there. And then cornerback 1, Garrett Williams, overlooked a lot. I gave him a 4. He was the guy that was drafted after tearing his ACL out of Syracuse. He basically redshirted his first season, and he has graded out very well. Underrated cornerback. I gave him a 4. He's solid. Hey, I'd love to have a guy like that on the Rams, actually. Moving on to I'll get to the total points here at the end. Now, the Seahawks, I gave Mike McDonald a 3. I mean, he did guide this team to basically a tiebreaker short of a playoff spot. Lots of changes here. He's another guy that's building this team in his image, a work in process here. Sam Darnold, the quarterback, I gave 3 out of 5. I was going to originally go 3, but hey, look what he did last year until he ran into this Rams defense. He's having a crazy good year. Left tackle Charles Cross. If I'm going to give Alaric Jackson a 4, which I might, I got to give Charles Cross a 4. He's been playing very well.
Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. The NBA playoffs are here, and Michelob Ultra is getting you closer to the game than ever with courtside seats and more. Enter now at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access Courtside 2024 to 2025 sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Ends on July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/superior access/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
Llegaron los nuevos McCrispy Strips, listos para aventurarse en la mezcla de mayo ketchup, la barbecue que quedó en el fondo de la cajita, Hot Fudge Sundae y en la nueva Creamy Chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Los nuevos McCrispy Strips, ahora en McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
And wide receiver 1, it's no longer Tyler Lockett. It's no longer DK Metcalf. They're both gone. Even if they were still there, it'd probably still be JSN. Got to give him a solid 4, right? And then the draft pick, Byron Murphy, I should say, a guy the Rams were interested in the 2024 draft. And he got banged up a little bit, missed some time. Overall, played very well. I gave him a 3 out of 5. Maybe I'm undervaluing him a little bit, but need to see more from him. And then from the pass rush perspective, I gave that to Leonard Williams, was the guy I graded, and he's been a solid veteran defensive end, gets to the quarterback a lot, just a solid, well-rounded player. Gave him a 4. There could be other guys on this Seahawks defense that maybe, in a rotational basis, present the ability to get to the quarterback, but on a down-to-down basis, getting a lot of snaps. It's got to be Leonard Williams. And then cornerback Devin Witherspoon, maybe I'm being a little generous here, but I gave him a solid 5. He is a very good cornerback, and a lot of people were surprised when the Seahawks drafted him, but starting to look like a very good decision. He's basically pushed Kobe Bryant to the safety position. So Witherspoon, a solid 5. I think that's a fair grade. Maybe 4.5 might have made more sense, but went with a 5 for him. Now we go to the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan, I gave him a 4.5. I mean, he's one of the best offensive minds in the game. Clubhouse seems to run pretty smoothly. He just has some issues making adjustments and big game management in big games. Brock Purdy, he's a really tough one to grade. I mean, if you look at his stats, he's a very efficient, productive quarterback. I think we've talked about his struggles in second halves when he's behind. So I don't know if he's that quarterback that's going to put the team on his shoulders in crunch time and rally them for wins. Hasn't really happened thus far. I give him a 4, though. Got to give him a lot of credit for what he has done in this offense. I think 49er fans would argue for a 4.5, and Ram fans would probably say maybe a 3.5. I split the difference. It's really hard to stay completely unbiased doing this, but giving it my best. Trent Williams, years past, he might have been a 5, but hey, getting up there in years, he's still one of the best in the league. I gave him a solid 4.5. Brandon Ayuk as their wide receiver 1, I gave him a 4. Coming back from that injury, it seems like he's 100%. Presents some clubhouse issues, it seems like. I don't know. There's just something a little bit off with Brandon Ayuk, but definitely at least a 4 as far as just pure talent at the wide receiver position. Run stopping, I went to the linebacker position, Fred Warner. You got to consider Fred Warner somewhere in this equation for the 49ers, and he's obviously a solid 5, best linebacker in the league. Best linebacker in the league for the last 5 or 6 years, perhaps, at least in the top 2 or 3. And then Bosa, from a pass rush perspective, I gave him a 5. And you go to the cornerback position, and I need to do more research on what the secondary is going to look like, but it doesn't look pretty right now. It looks like it's going to be Lenore, and I gave him a 2.5, and maybe it should be higher. I really don't know. I spent some time digging through stats and Pro Football Focus grades, and just trying to gather as much information as I can within a reasonable amount of time on all these guys. And Lenore 2.5, that's my best guess. I could be off there, but hey, that's what you get. Now we're on to the Rams. Sean McVay, to me, is a solid 5, a top 3 coach by almost anyone's account. Stafford at the quarterback position, 4.5 points. I gave him 4.5. Now, regular season quarterback, sometimes he leaves something to be desired, but I still will ride Matthew Stafford any day of the week. We'll go all the way to the Super Bowl with him potentially again. I feel like if you get crunch time in December and in the playoffs, Stafford has to be your guy in this division. Alaric Jackson, I gave him a 4, a guy that, fans and folks that follow other teams probably not on the Alaric Jackson bandwagon, but we've all seen it. He is a solid left tackle. And then the number 1 wide receiver, take your pick. Is it Puka? If it's Puka, it's a 4. If it's Devontae Adams that emerges, he's a 4 too. And I could be selling these guys short. Maybe Puka's a 4.5, but compared to Ayuk, I don't know who you got. I obviously prefer Puka just because of his attitude and the culture that he fits into this culture in Los Angeles so well, and I value that. Brandon Ayuk, I do not think he would fit into the Rams culture as well. But, he's not. Ayuk on the 49ers, give him a 4. Puka on the Rams, I'll give him a 4 too. And then Poona Ford is my run-stopping entity on the Rams, and I may be selling him a little short too. I gave him a 4. That's what they brought him in for, so we're hoping it turns out to be a 4.5. Now, pass rushing, I took our 4th guy, the guy that had the 4th most sacks last year, Jared Verse, gave him a 4.5. We all know he is probably the biggest pass rushing threat on this team. And then cornerback, Akilla Witherspoon, I would call her CB1, our top cornerback, and I gave him a 3.5. I think that's a fair grade. So how does it all stack up in the end? What are the final numbers for these 4 teams in the NFC West? I had the 49ers and the Rams both at 29.5 points, the Seahawks with 26.5, and the Cardinals with 22.5. So not a big surprise there that the 49ers and the Rams are at the top. What I would say is if you took into account a couple of other premium positions, the 49ers might edge ahead of the Rams. But if you took into account the entire roster and depth and the number of bodies the Rams have on this roster that we could count on if we had to, I think they would edge well ahead of the 49ers. The Seahawks, I think, are right about where they should be. They have some depth issues, but Their defense returns 10 of 11 starters. I think they're pretty solid, kind of have some depth issues there. And their offensive line, we'll have to see. They've made some gradual improvements, and maybe they'll finally have their offensive line figured out. And the Cardinals, there's just too many unknowns. A lot of guesswork on this pretty young roster, a bunch of new guys on defense here. Their offensive line started to grade out pretty well last year from what I read. But they, got a great tight end. We didn't account for tight ends here. And if we had, I think the 49ers and the Cardinals would have edged the Rams in that category and the Seahawks until Terrence Ferguson gets rolling anyways. But Cardinals at 22.5. That's how I had it stacked up. 49ers and Rams 29.5, Seahawks 26.5, Cardinals 22.5. And as I said, if you took into account the entire roster, I think the Rams edged the 49ers there. If you took into account maybe just the premium players, the primary starters, and totally discount depth, I'd probably take the 49ers. That's it. I hope that made sense. Nerding out on you once again here. Those are my scores for the NFC West teams. Maybe I'll do this again and compare the Rams score here with the Eagles, Packers, and Lions. Maybe the Buccaneers. That might make sense. Out here from Rams Up.
Who says you can't be the topic of conversation for all the right reasons? The Hyundai Tucson Hybrid pairs bold presence with advanced technology and sleek style. It's everything you didn't know you needed in an SUV and then some. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more.
That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.